Ideal mesmo para o mundo atual seria fazer o ensino médio junto com o curso técnico, certo? É no Senac que o aluno tem autonomia de verdade, formação cidadã, foco na diversidade, preparação para o Enem, material didático sem taxas e muito mais. Na real, tem tudo que você precisa para se sentir preparado para a vida. Seja para entrar no mundo do trabalho ou te ajudar a decidir o que fazer na faculdade. Quer saber? Senac. Vem comigo! Acesse sp.senac.br/ensino-médio-técnico.
Hi, it's Dave here. This is my wife, Kathy.
Hello.
And this is the Cinemile. It's the podcast where we walk home from the movies. Today we're going to go see a movie at the Opening Gala of the Cork International Film Festival 69th edition.
I know, and they always have amazing movies for opening night, so my expectations are high. We love the Cork International Film Festival. We heavily support it. I'm on the board of directors, so this will be incredibly biased when we say it's the best festival in the world. But
Correct.
also true.
Yeah.
It is the longest and running and oldest festival in Ireland, 69 years, and it started the same year as Cannes. It's one of the oldest, I think second or third oldest in Europe.
Yeah, Cork's on the map.
It's cool,
baby.
like, it's amazing. So anyway, we're really, really excited to go to the opening night. This movie looks so good. It's like Succession, but for popes.
Yes, I'm so excited for this.
I know.
I watched 10 seconds of this trailer, saw who was in it, and I'm like, yes. I don't know why, but I am incredibly interested in the idea of a conclave, which for anyone who doesn't know is when the Pope dies in the Catholic Church, all the cardinals come together in the Vatican and they lock themselves in a room, like they sequester themselves, and they all have to have a little election to decide who's the Pope, and there's all this pomp and circumstance. And I remember the last two, I think we've seen this 2 or 3 times in our lifetime, twice anyway, and everyone's outside, there's huge crowds, and they either release at the end of the day black smoke if they haven't decided, or white smoke if they have decided. I mean, that's an awesome way to announce the result.
It's so funny because, like, we both grew up in Catholic Ireland, like, you know, steeped in Catholicism. Neither of us are practicing Catholics, but the thing about this is, like, we grew up steeped in Catholicism. I've been to a million masses in my life. I know nothing about the Vatican or popes. The only thing I know
by design,
about the
it's
Vatican,
very secretive.
I only know about it through the Da Vinci Code and associated sequels.
that is not a good frame of reference.
So in my head, it's Succession meets the Da Vinci Code. Right, we are going.
By the way, fantastic. They're terrible movies, but the end of Angels and Demons has a conclave in it.
I wish I could
and it's
remember
one
it.
of my favourite things. I'm not going to spoil it here, but I'll spoil it later. The thing that happens in that movie with Ewan McGregor is I laughed so hard when I saw it.
I can't remember. Right, anyway, we're off to the opening night of the Cork International Film Festival to see Conclave, and we shall be back tomorrow. We probably won't record when it's finished now because it'll be late. And we're probably going to go out afterwards, of course, to celebrate.
So we'll check in
tomorrow.
Within 24 hours.
Yeah.
Bye.
The Pope is dead. The throne is vacant.
What happened? They say a heart attack.
You know how rumor spreads, and 1.25 billion souls watching.
Well done, no, Lawrence. It seems the responsibility for the conclave falls upon you. The supervision of this election is a duty I never thought I'd have to perform. They are sequestered, and they must be shielded from all news that may influence their judgment. You understand? No sane man would want the papacy. The men who are dangerous are the ones who do want it. That sounds ominous. I wonder if I could have a word in private. You look anxious. Everything under control. How has this been kept a secret for so long? We'll never find a candidate who doesn't have any kind of black mark against them.
Although we sisters are supposed to be invisible, God has nevertheless given us eyes and ears.
You should be careful, Thomas.
Hi, we're back. It is the next day. We have seen Conclave. We went last night and we had a fantastic night. Great opening to the film festival.
Amazing.
It's going to be a great 10 days.
What a movie! The audience was, like, on the edge of their seats, like holding their breath. It was that kind of a cinema experience.
It was so good. So before we get into it, though, we should remind everyone that we don't spoil the movie here at the Cinemile until we get to Spoiler Street. So you're going to get spoiler-free thoughts on Conclave. But yeah, I agree with you that it is cinema at its best is when you're in a packed audience and you're all vibing with the movie.
Yeah.
And this audience at the Everyman Palace. Is it the Palace? Everyman Theatre?
Theatre.
I feel like Palace is in there somewhere.
I don't know.
The Everyman Theatre in Cork last night was on board. Everyone was on board with this. Like, we were laughing. This film is surprisingly funny.
Surprisingly funny. Very, very tense.
And thrilling. It is so tense. So for anyone who doesn't know what this is, you've just heard the trailer, but it basically plays like a thriller, like a Game of Thrones. You called it like a Succession level political backstabbing behind closed doors. There's also several mysteries being revealed throughout the course of the thing.
Yeah.
This is a roller coaster, and it's so interesting because we watched this in the same week we saw Small Things Like These with Cillian Murphy. So we've done a Catholic Church double bill this week. all about the incredible institutional corruption of this organization. 2 back-to-back features, but these films could not be more different.
Yeah, they're not, like, other than subject matter, like,
so
they have nothing in common.
No, Small Things Like These is a vibes film, and it's a snail's pace, and there is no plot to speak of, and it's an actor's movie.
Yeah.
This is also is a great actor's movie, but it never stops. This is just a mile a minute, and it's
so
great
good.
fun.
And it looks gorgeous, on the big screen. It's a stunningly visual movie. I really recommend people watch it in a cinema. It looks incredible on screen. There's so many visuals and long corridors and umbrellas and all these things going on that look really gorgeous.
The sets are very interesting.
Yeah.
I'd love to know. I'm dying to know, and meant to look it up. Where they filmed all this? Like, do they have replica chapels? Right? Because I can't imagine this was done with the Catholic Church's blessing. They're not in the Vatican, right?
I have
so it
no
looks
idea.
very authentic.
I'm not joking when I tell you I don't even know the name of the current pope. This is how little I pay attention to pope stuff.
Benedict, or is he the guy that stepped down? No, it's the guy.
You don't even know, so don't bother speculating.
No, Benedict was the guy that looked like Emperor Palpatine.
Okay,
and
right.
he stepped down. Yeah.
Anyway, back to this film. Ray Fiennes, incredible.
Francis, it's Pope Francis.
Ray Fiennes is like the top cardinal, and he's also like trying to solve this kind of mystery stuff. What's so clever about this film is, in a traditional, this is not a murder mystery, by the way, but just in a traditional murder mystery, you'll often find that, for some reason, people all get stranded together in, one place. This has that same mystery setting because they're basically sequestered. They've no access to the outside world. Ray Fiennes is trying to manage the nomination and election system fairly to make sure that it's run with rigor and properly, and he's doing this all while it's just all these men locked up together. So it's such a clever idea. I know it's based on a book that neither of us have read. It's such a clever idea. Ray Fiennes is such a good actor. I just love watching him on screen. You've got Stanley Tucci, you've got Isabella Rossellini,
John Lithgow.
It's such a cast. You've got an Irish actor who's fabulous,
Brina Byrne.
So
She's
yeah,
great.
It's such a treat. Now at the beginning it is slow.
I don't think so. I don't agree.
But from the opening moment, though, Ray Fiennes is walking, and that's his journey for the movie. He will be constantly busy.
Kathy, you're straight into it. I mean, this isn't a spoiler, but the opening scene is the Pope's dead.
Yeah.
that's the opening moment. You're and from there, it's just you're on the ride. I think
I found it incredibly tense in a week where there's just been another election.
Well, there are echoes of the battle that has been fought in America and is being fought across the world between conservative values and progressiveness and liberal ideas. And that, I think, if anything, the movie is not subtle about how it's portraying those two divides.
It's portraying
basically has a sort of a old school misogynist Trump-esque character running for Pope in there, and it has another character who represents the opposite of that and progressiveness in the Catholic Church and being open to
that none of them believe nuns should have rights or voices.
No, and that is a through line throughout this movie. There's even a joke at one point, which references like, oh yeah, no, we're okay with all those progressive ideas around gay rights and all this, but and then somebody mentions and women and say, oh no, too far.
Yeah.
Like they can imagine like opening the Catholic Church to gay people, but not women.
Like the nuns are like this movie. The nuns are slaves and servants, and I would be fascinated to know, and we'll never know, if that's actually the case in the Vatican. Really fascinating stuff. We must get to spoilers on this one though, I think, because I don't want to spoil anything.
No, it is very good. We highly recommend it. And Ray Fiennes, this is the Ray Fiennes show. You're with him.
He's so good. At one point he shouts though, and then I'm like, oh my god, it's Voldemort. you just expect him to go, Harry Potter. He's just so famous for that now.
But that's what he plays a character in this with great he's a moral compass, and he's the detective character, so to speak, as well. And funny you mentioned it's a murder mystery. The thing that's reminded me of more was it's 12 Angry Men, right?
Yeah.
Except it's 100 Angry Men, or however many there are. Like because you consistently have this, much like the device in 12 Angry Men, they're regularly taking votes.
Yeah.
Which gives you the temperature of the room, and that is a fantastic mechanic, because you're getting you're watching how the votes slowly change and influence over the course of time.
That is so good. Every time they do a
happening.
tally, I was like, and also it was such a nicer version of what I'd been doing the other morning, which is like doom refreshing the CNN feed to follow the college electoral votes as I sobbed into my phone. It was much nicer to watch a kind of civilised, written down in life voting. I love to see how every time someone puts their vote down, they have to spend like 5 minutes going, I declare to God that I am so choosing the best candidate based on all the common decency of the Catholic Church or whatever. Like, imagine being there listening to
boring.
like 150 of them say that every time they vote.
But then 100 or however many of them do that. They all go up and do that, and that takes X long. And then at one point they do that, and then they go, okay, we're going to now move into another vote, and they just start the whole thing again.
And like, then they all
it'd be so tedious
at all
to
times,
be there.
2 copies of the Bible each next to them. It's like, lads, are you reading the Bible in the middle of this? What's happening? Anyway. We're going to go to Spoiler Street. You may hear a short break, and we'll be back.
Okay, we're back. And speaking of Succession, that was a bad segue, because nobody was speaking about Succession.
We were.
You mentioned it earlier. Over on our Patreon page at patreon.com/theCinemile, we of course did loads of Succession episodes, weekly Succession episodes. So maybe you're rewatching that. Maybe you want to hear what we thought week to week of that show that's finished. But there's other stuff there. You get, if you sign up for €3 or €4 a month, or whatever the equivalent is in your currency, then you get instant access to over 50 retro movie reviews, because we've been doing those monthly for years now, and we'll continue to do them. You get to vote on what we will be doing each month. You get to join our wonderful community of patrons there, who are much more knowledgeable and passionate about films than we are, and they're awesome, and we love talking to them every day. And we do loads of TV stuff, so we've just finished The Penguin. We will be doing, what else are we doing?
Well, we have the Sweet
Pea,
Jilly Cooper Rivals.
Yeah, loads of stuff.
Basically, all the big shows, we'll be reviewing them.
So there we go. Check it out. You can sign up for free and consume all that, and then leave if you like.
7-day
free trial. Patreon.com/thecinema.
Now, spoilers for the Battle of the Cardinals. Who are you rooting for?
Benitez. I was turning to you as soon as Benitez had 2 votes. It went from 1 to 2. I said to you, didn't I? I said, Benitez has this in the bag.
Did Benitez vote for himself the first
dark
time?
Horse.
Like, you know the way they said 30 of them have 1 vote? I was like, so 30 people voted for themselves.
No, here's the thing. I believe Benitez is absolutely on the level. I agree, yeah. But at the beginning, I was like, he can't be Pope because no one's ever heard of him. I was like, my vote was with Ray Fiennes the whole time. Well, and that so was Benitez's, and I believe him. I don't think he was. Towards the end, I thought the rug pull, which we got at the end, might be, Benitez was playing a longer political game and just taking them all for a ride, and he's actually a prick.
I don't think you could do that though. You come in and no one's ever met you. You're hardly going to think you're going to.
But it felt to me in the last few moments of this film a plausible twist.
Yeah.
When Ralph Fiennes gets brought aside saying, "Oh no, Benitez is
I
Pope."
thought it was the twist. Sorry, we're just straight to the end. But when there's a twist, you have to be. I thought it was going to be that Benitez. It wasn't him at all. Someone had gone and gotten plastic surgery and made themselves look exactly like him, and it was a complete imposter, and
Why
he
not?
wasn't even a cardinal, and I was so excited. But roll back.
Okay.
So when we
who
first
were you
meet,
rooting for? Who did you thought Ralph Fiennes would end up?
I was rooting for Stanley Tucci. Then he kind of went a bit nuts. I loved the way Ralph Fiennes wasn't petitioning for anyone to vote for him, but he was getting votes, and then Stanley Tucci's like, "Your ambition is evident to me."
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, calm down, Stanley. Like, he didn't canvass.
Around that point, he convinced me, Stanley Bellini convinced me that Lawrence, the Ralph Fiennes character, maybe was also, like, our protagonist was an unreliable narrator and was playing the field. But I'm kind of glad he wasn't, and he was just our moral compass.
I know, I loved it. And I also didn't think it, because from the moment the Pope died, he was really crying and sobbing.
Yeah,
Like,
that's true.
that's not a man.
No,
looking
but then
for power.
it could be, movies can absolutely have a final
sure.
rug pull which makes you reevaluate everything. So maybe
There was
he was
nothing with
crying
him.
because he fucking murdered the Pope.
Yeah, there was just nothing. There was nothing there though in that sense. So we had the bad guy, the guy we hated, our antagonist. So the Italian kind of right-wing fascist.
Yeah.
And they establish him very well. Like, he's got all the charisma and the swagger, and they're all like, we need to do anything to stop him. And then you've John Lithgow, who like kind of keeps quiet but is amassing a suspicious amount of votes.
Yeah.
And then transpires. Oh, and then we have. So there's basically the contender. There's Tremblay, who's American.
And then you've the Nigerian candidate who's one of the first guys.
Who he actually has the most votes, and I've forgotten his character's name now.
Who is it? I've got it here. Is Adeyemi, and he is played by Lucien Masamati, who myself and Kobe and Helen O'Hara sat in a room with and did a podcast episode for His Dark Materials, and he was in that. And
brilliant!
He was an absolute
he's
gentleman.
so good in this movie.
Yeah, he's very good.
So we have him. So he's like the top spot, and then he gets knocked out very quickly because suspiciously a woman from his past, who he had a baby with, is brought in. And that scene with him and Ralph Fiennes where he's like, I made a lapse in judgment 30 years ago, and like,
interesting.
And he
scene.
could have been Pope, like he was about to be Pope, and he's crying, and I just thought, God, that, when you're watching just two wonderful actors on screen together,
Yeah.
it was such a good scene.
And I like that Lawrence came there to confront him. Like, Lawrence is a great character.
Lawrence is Jessica Fletcher.
What I love, yeah, exactly, and or a good journalist, because this to me is very much like a journalist movie.
Yeah.
You've got this wider conspiracy being unraveled through fantastic investigativism and brilliant photocopying skills. And so in that moment, I love what makes you love this character Lawrence is he always wants to do the right thing, comes to confront him, but he's also saying, I'm not going to reveal this information because I believe you to be a good person.
He also goes, it's in the sanctity of the confession.
Yeah, oh, I love that.
Yeah, I love that too.
He's by the book.
Yeah, he's so by the book.
Yeah.
So then your man withdraws gracefully, but he's crying because he was in his grasp. Then we have, though we weren't quite rooting for him either because they said that he was really, really homophobic, but we are still rooting for him over the really bad Italian guy. So it was kind of like, who's the less worst?
Who referred to Muslims as animals.
Yeah, and
which is language that Donald Trump used on his campaign trail.
He seems to be like the worst, and he's the one
Yeah.
that everyone's like, at all costs we can't have him, and he wants to have a religious war, which I don't even know what like that would entail these days, but like he wants to go back to like,
he was just like, get them out.
he wants
build
to
a
go
wall.
back to like 1,000 years ago. That's the
Yeah.
kind of, he wants everyone to be speaking Latin.
But that's a really interesting dynamic. And by the way, that actor, I don't know who he was. It felt like a role that John Turturro. He looked like John Turturro.
Yeah, I felt like he could have played it.
But
he's literally
he
like,
was great, and
we
he
all
was
need to
so
be speaking-
funny as well.
He's like, we all need to be speaking Latin.
Yeah.
We need to turn back the last 60 years of progress. We need to have a war with non-Christians. Bet that's basically his platform.
It's make the Catholic Church great again.
Yeah, exactly.
Is what he's saying.
Then we have the John Lithgow character, which I just love. So it turns out he's been like buying votes, which is like, big ball energy, I think, to be buying boats to become the Pope.
My favourite thing, so I know, yeah. I love the way the Pope is keeping everyone's personal finances hidden behind his bed.
The Pope, the dead Pope, has actually
he's got tabs on everyone.
Own investigation over who's trying to succeed him.
And
so the Pope is the Brian Cox of the show.
For sure. And I love that the Pope kind of loomed large over a lot of the proceedings.
He really did.
I thought at one point that the Pope had engineered all of this for Benitez to be, because he was his little secret.
I think he kind of did.
Well, I for one believe, and this is never resolved by the movie, but I believed Tremblay, John Lithgow's character, when he said, the Pope asked me to bring that woman over from Nigeria.
Yeah, that bit's true.
And I didn't know who she was. I really do believe him.
I believed him, but it doesn't matter.
I think the Pope engineered that to get rid of...
It's true, but and everyone's like, yeah, fine, but you still bribed.
But he did, yeah, he did do
that. But I love the scene where, and this is where Stanley Tucci's bid falls apart, because Ralph Fiennes comes to him because they're like best mates, and he says, look, John, I can't remember any of their names. John Lithgow is been, like, buying people off.
Yeah.
And Stanley Tucci's like, well, I want him to be the Pope and not that other right-wing guy. And then Ralph Fiennes is like, you're not brave enough to be the Pope. And then Ralph Fiennes storms out and like goes to make photocopies, and then of course he can't because he's a man in the Vatican and it seems like they are like completely inept. So then Isabella Rossellini helps him make the copies, and that was just such a good moment. Like everyone in our audience was like, yeah, when he like put the copies out on all the tables.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, so good. And then
I love the way one moment, like from scene to scene, Lawrence, Ralph Fiennes' character, would go, he'd be like, I cannot know any of this information. We are to be sequestered. And then one moment later, he's like breaking into the Pope's room and doing photocopies and making reports.
When he broke into the
pick a lane, man.
When he broke into the Pope's bedroom, I couldn't have been happier.
It was
like
great.
That was so fun. So then Tremblay's gone. So now it's a final battle between the evil fascist and then I guess Ralph Fiennes, because Stanley Tucci's like, the whole time I was telling you to look into your heart, I should have been looking into my own
That's a lovely
heart.
scene.
It was a lovely scene. Again, two amazing actors to watch on screen together. And then he says, you know, everyone's always thought of their Pope name. What Pope name would you choose? And then Ralph Fiennes says, I would be John. And that is Ralph Fiennes' downfall, because the second you want to be the Pope, you can't be the Pope.
I know.
That is what we learned
now,
in this
do
film.
you think he wrote his own name down? Oh no, we saw him write his own name down, and that's when the bomb went off, right?
Yeah, I thought that was a sign from the heavens when the light came on him. I thought they were all going to take that as a sign from God that, like, he needs to be Pope.
No, they were going to take it as a sign that there was a car bomb outside.
Yeah,
and
I just thought no one seemed particularly like godly or holy or anything in this.
No, except Benitez, who, and this is the thing, and this is why the movie, I think, now so its final reveal, which we need to talk about now, is that Benitez
has double sex organs, I guess?
Yes, I believe so, yeah.
Externally male, but internally has a womb.
Yes.
So it's so good because throughout this film, they've lightly enough, but it's been apparent how the women are like slaves, downtrodden. Benitez is the only person who says grace, and like actually he says thank you to our sisters for this food, and all the nuns like gasp because they've never been thanked for cooking food for all these men. Like the nuns are just like live-in help, right? And free labor. And then Benitez is like, oh yeah, by the way, so he finally gets picked. He wins because of his amazing speech against war and hatred, which is really rousing. And then he's like, oh yeah, by the way, I have a womb. Bye. So now we have the Pope who's got a womb, which I just love. And I love the way he said, I could have had the surgery to remove it, but I was made by his hand.
Oh, I love that.
And actually it would have been like ungodly of me to remove the womb because this is how I was made. And that's such a lovely message, because everyone is made differently, and that is your strength, that you know what defines you, and that's why actually he'll probably be an amazing Pope.
Exactly, and that he's the only person who is consistently prioritizing the values of Catholicism, which I am not.
Well, Ralph Fiennes is as well, in fairness. But Ralph Fiennes is like,
true, but as you mentioned, even he becomes subject to human ambition towards the end, or pride.
Though
right?
I think it was more. I mean, yeah,
a little bit.
But he also was like, I have to stop your man.
But Benitez is like unquestionably like moral and good to a crazy degree, and I think the movie is. I think this rug pull is interesting because firstly, the whole audience laughed because in the moment it is quite kind of absurd and shocking, and also Ray Fiennes' reaction to it is legitimately hilarious.
Because the Catholic Church essentially hates women.
Exactly. So that's why we were all kind of collectively laughing, because it was a gotcha moment on the Catholic Church. Like, you deserve this. The whole time you've been like diminishing women, like ignoring them. Even in the movie, they weren't on the agenda ever.
Yeah, even
and then
like Isabella Rossellini barely has anything to say in this film.
So they accidentally ended up with kind of a woman pope, and it's exactly what they need, and I think that's an awesome message.
I love that. It was such a good message. Anyway, we're gonna go. Let us know if you have seen this movie, what you thought of it. Come and chat to us.
We're thecinemile@gmail.com if you'd like to email us, or we are on Letterboxd and Instagram and YouTube. Just search The Cinemile or @The Cinemile.
See you there.
Thanks for listening. Oh, and leave us a review. That'd be nice.
Yes, please do. It means a lot to podcasts. People always forget to do it. If you would please leave us a 5-star review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
And just say something nice.
Greatly appreciate it. You don't even have to say anything. Just leave 5 stars.
Just leave a review. Thank you.
Bye.
If there was only certainty and no doubt, there would be no mystery. And therefore no need for faith.